It had become routine, so routine that on this 25th shuttle flight, the three major television networks were taping the liftoff from Cape Canaveral for later broadcast. They did not carry it live. NASA, which knows a thing or two about image making, had obviously put some thought into gaining broader public interest. Consider the crew, among them an aerospace engineer whose grandparents were Japanese immigrants, an unmarried Jewish woman who, in addition to her doctorate in electrical engineering, played classical piano, a black PhD in physics from MIT who also held a 5th degree black belt in karate, and at President Reagan's request, an American high school teacher whose other primary qualifications were her vital interest in spaceflight and her courage. Those are just some of the crew members who set out this morning for what everyone thought would be another routine mission.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 3 hours in holding. We're about 3 hours away from today's launch of Mission 51L and about 18 minutes away from picking up the count. And they are posing for their traditional shot during their breakfast. And here comes the flight crew now. Commander Dick Scobee, followed by Mission Specialist Resnik, Ron McNair, and pilot Mike Smith, followed by Christa McAuliffe, teacher in space, Ellison Onizuka, and payload specialist Greg Jarvis.
As they get ready, the teacher observer, Christa McAuliffe, has been handed an apple by the closeout crew. The 51L mission ready to go. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission.
Roger, roll, Challenger. Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading downrange. Challenger, go and throttle up. 15 seconds. Velocity 4,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. The vehicle has exploded. We are now looking at all the contingency operations and awaiting word from any recovery forces in the downrange field. Again, to repeat, we have a report relayed through the flight dynamics office that the vehicle has exploded. We are now. Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction. We have no downlink.
Debris continued to fall for 50 minutes and more, and obviously you can't send aircraft and ships into an area where debris is falling, where they themselves may be endangered.
There are recovery forces in the general area, others being deployed, including aircraft and ships. We saw what we believe to be paramedics parachuting into the impact area.
And at this special moment, let us remember in silent prayer those who were involved in the spacecraft shuttle accident just a few minutes ago off Florida. Let us pray.
The Vice President and the Foreign Policy Advisor, John Poindexter, came in with others and informed the President that the news had just broken. We immediately adjourned our Oval Office meeting and went into an adjoining room, the President's study, where there's a television, and the President then began to review television reports of the explosion there shortly after the launch.
It's a sad day. My heart goes out to Christa's husband and her children. An exciting day has turned into a very sad one.
A terrible disaster. And I remember thinking that in the early days of the space program, we used to sort of half expect something to go wrong, but these days we've become so used to it automatically working and computerized and everything that it's an even bigger shock.
Yeah. Man, their monitoring systems on their injection into orbit. When it happened, they were caught by surprise. And even if they had been expecting it, they couldn't have done anything about it.
This is Mission Control, Houston. Flight controllers reviewing their data here in Mission Control. We will provide you with more information as it becomes available.
These searches have not revealed any evidence
that the crew of Challenger survived.
I guess in our human existence there is triumph and there is tragedy. And man tries many things. Sometimes, though, we aren't perfect. And then there's a tragedy that brings us back to our own human frailties.
The President, in consultation with the leadership of Congress, has decided to postpone the State of the Union address that was scheduled for this evening.
I'm reminded of when I was a boy in another age of flight and before the age of television, when I was gathered around a radio with my parents listening to the landing of the Hindenburg and then the resultant explosion and burning of that Hindenburg.
As long as man has the thirst for knowledge, we will continue to press outward. And in the process, there is risk. That risk is taken by each one of us every day, and that risk is understood by all the members of a crew that climb into a loaded spaceship.
I think that the NASA and the Congress will examine this question of whether we have not been premature in encouraging civilians to fly.
It's a surprise to me that it happened, but I would go again tomorrow. If NASA would let me go, I would go again.
And it has cleared the tower.
We've grown used to wonders in this century. It's hard to dazzle us. But for 25 years, the United States space program has been doing just that. We've grown used to the idea of space, and perhaps we forget that we've only just begun. We're still pioneers. They, the members of the Challenger crew, were pioneers. And I want to say something to the school children of America who were watching the live coverage of the shuttle's takeoff. I know it's hard to understand, but sometimes painful things like this happen. It's all part of the process of exploration and discovery. It's all part of taking a chance and expanding man's horizons. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave. The Challenger crew.
Joining our other guests when we return, a man with a very special perspective on our triumphs and our tragedies in space, Ray Bradbury, one of America's most distinguished science fiction authors. He has been gazing at the stars much longer than most of us and with a great deal more vision than most of us. For 40 years, Ray Bradbury has been one of America's most highly acclaimed writers of science fiction, and he joins us now live from our Los Angeles bureau. And as always, Ray, you look far beyond today. So give us a taste of what it is you see as being the ultimate culmination of manned spaceflight.
Well, I was out at JPL on Saturday for the Uranus encounter, and on that day it was an exhilaration that reminded us that we were alive in a very strange and beautiful universe. Now, a day like today teaches us the reverse, that we are also capable of dying. And then we ask the reason for this. Why are we exhilarated one day and destroyed the next? And I was reminded of a thing that I saw on television some years ago when Carl Sagan was showing us the structure of DNA molecules and enzymes of all things. And I thought, just 2 days ago, I wrote an article about this, where the universe shouts at us, and the universe is the universal enzyme, and we are these massive molecules of DNA, and we respond. For secret reasons, we've come alive in the universe, and we love the gift of life. So on Saturday, we celebrated the fact that we lived, and today we discover that we have to die in order to go on celebrating.
Now, you spoke to me earlier this afternoon about the possibility of outer space providing us with an answer to the wars that we have been fighting. I'd love to be able to bring this program to some kind of a positive conclusion. We've brushed against so many different subjects. Go ahead, and then we'll go around among all our guests.
Well, yes, we've always needed to be tested. That we like to know that we are strong, that we are imaginative, that we have willpower. Toynbee, many years ago, in his various books, spoke of the challenge of the future rushing upon us and challenging us to survive. We survive in many ways. Too often in the past, we have survived by destroying one another. And the wars of the past have been futile and ridiculous to most of us. Now, all of a sudden, we discover we have a war worth fighting. In other words, in the long night of time, we humans on this earth, in the middle of this universe, have a challenge. What is the challenge? Gravity, space, time, death, and darkness. Therefore, space travel has always meant to me our endeavor to fight the good fight, the best war, the one that's really worth winning, the positive war against time and death. And if we win that, with all the sacrifices that come with it, moving on out to the moon, to Mars, and then to Alpha Centauri someday, we will have won the supreme battle, and we'll go on living forever after that.
Now, Marcia Smith, as you begin to prepare your report that goes to the President, that goes to Congress, is that a little bit too philosophical, a little bit too poetic, a little bit too far out, no pun intended?
Well, we are very philosophical and far out at the Commission, and I'm not quite sure how far out we're going to be in our ultimate report. I'm not sure how much what happened today is going to affect our report. I would like to respond, however, to something that Alex Rowland said and greatly take exception with what he said about machines being able to do everything that people can do. In the Soviet space program, they've already found out, for example, that the human eye looking down at an ocean sees very different things than a sensor looking down at an ocean. It can see patterns in the waves that the sensors can't see. Maybe someday we'll be able to build robot spacecraft that can exactly mimic what the human systems can do, but so far we don't have that capability.
All right, quickly, Mr. Rowland, a response from you. I want to give everyone just a chance to quickly round it off.
Surely. I'd like to remind everyone that we have designed a machine to go to Mars to perform the most subtle and most complicated of missions, that is, determine if there's life there, and we succeeded with the machine in sending it there, orbiting it, sending it down to the surface, collecting samples and testing for life. Any society that can build a machine like that can build machines to do lots of the things our astronauts are doing in space. Not all of them, but lots of them. And I don't think we should engage that cost and the human risk any more than we have to.
General Yeager, you, for so many of us, personify the man in the cockpit, the man in the shuttle.
Well, Ted, I've seen a lot of programs come and go over my career as a military pilot, both in combat, research, and have watched the space program. I've seen many accidents very similar to what we have seen today. And a lot of people make a lot of comments, but it boils down, we find out what caused the accident, fix it, and press on. And there's a lot of people, fortunately, in this country who are aggressive enough to make these programs work. And that's the way it's going to be, in my opinion, from now on.
All right. I have really wanted more time to give so many guests a little more opportunity to say something more. I just hope you'll accept that I'm very grateful to each and every one of you for joining us here this evening. Every loved one left behind by those setting out for the unknown has felt it, a bittersweet mixture of pride and fear that simply won't go away until the voyage is over. And when we come back, we'll hear a poem written by the wife of an astronaut who journeyed to the moon. Somehow, in her words, she managed to capture that special feeling. And finally, a few words in behalf of those left behind, the wives, parents, husband, and children of the 7 astronauts who died today. There is a courage and a generosity of spirit required of those who stay behind that was captured in a poem written by Patricia Collins for her husband, Michael. Michael Collins was an astronaut who flew safely, as it turned out, aboard Gemini 10 and Apollo 11. Mrs. Collins titled her poem, "To a Husband Who Must Seek the Stars." In your eyes, the first glad token, as when first our love we proved, so your mind to mine has spoken, just as if your lips had moved. You are saying, yes, I know that the lure of space beguiles. You are pleading, let me go, not unwilling, but with smiles. Can you love me and still choose whispers that I cannot hear? Late to love, how can I bear to lose content for some inconstant sphere? Tell me how you see my role, to stay, to wait, yet yearn to go. Where is the comfort for my soul? You, my love, have helped me know. I'll be unafraid, undaunted, yes, of course. I need not face any peril or be haunted by the hazards you embrace. I could have sought by wit or wile your bright dream to dim, and yet, if I'd swayed you with a smile, my reward would be regret. So, for once, you shall not hear of the tears unbidden welling or the nighttime stabs of fear, these, this time, are not for telling. Take my silence, though intended, fill it with the joy you feel. Take my courage, now pretended. You, my love, will make it real. I'll be back in a moment. That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.